All right, people, we are coming into fight week. It is fight week for Dave Allen versus Arslanbek Makhmudov. And I have to say, the closer we've got to this fight, the more intrigued I am with it. Now, I've spoke about the weight of Dave Allen, the way he, appearing from the pictures that he's been shown, he seems to have taken off a good bit of weight. He seems to look in good shape, and that's what he's saying. But, right, we've seen him say things like that before, step on the scales, and we've seen no difference at all. In some cases, he's actually come in heavier. So, the scales will tell us everything come on Friday. But judging by the pictures, and again, Andy Ruiz, Tinder girls take note. Andy Ruiz is the king of it. How many times have we seen him do it? Amongst other fighters as well, we've seen. I really don't know how they do it or why they. Anyway, I don't know why they do it. But Dave Allen on Friday will know roughly kind of how good a shape he is in. I would say Dave Allen's best weight would be, to be honest with you, I would say Dave Allen's best weight would probably be low 240s. But that would be me looking at Dave Allen staying close to that weight, if you get me. Not doing like a crash diet to get down to it. Being maybe a couple of pounds over 240 and just maintaining that weight in and out of camp, I think that'd be a good weight for him. Because he's said in the past when he's taken weight off that he's felt weak and drained. Well, yeah, you would feel weak and drained if you're cutting down from, say, 270, 260, and you're doing it over the course of 6-8 weeks. And then, you're 230 on fight night, 235 on fight night, thereabouts, and you're thinking, okay, I look aesthetically good, I'm light, but I don't. Yeah, you would feel that way. If you do it gradually and maintain that weight, the body will adjust to get used to it. In terms of Arslanbek Makhmudov, he's a lot more consistent. He's a very big man. He's been weighing pretty much consistently over the last couple of fights. Although his last fight, he was slightly heavier, but he's been consistently in the low 260s. He was 265 last time out back in June. But prior to that, in the loss to Vianello, he was 260. He was 263 against Vajani, I think is how you say that guy's name. 262 against Caballel. Junior Anthony Wright, 260. You get what I mean here. So he's been kind of in around the 260 to 265 bracket pretty much throughout the course of his career. I mean, his career lightest was 248 way back in 2018. So Arslanbek Makhmudov is absolutely massive. He's 6'5". The man just looks mean. He just has that mean look about him, doesn't he? But it has to be said, he is very limited. We didn't know at the time when he was undefeated. He was undefeated this time 2 years ago. People were talking about, this is back when Tyson Fury was blatantly ducking Alexander Usyk before we knew who Turki Al-Ashik was, and we were looking for opponents for Tyson Fury to take on. If it wasn't going to be Usyk, we were naming Frank Sanchez, we were naming Arslanbek Makhmudov, believe it or not, because he was highly ranked. Again, at the time, we didn't really know how. We knew he wasn't, the second coming or anything like that, but we didn't know how limited he really is. He's very limited heavyweight, but god damn can he punch. Good lord, can he punch. He's right up there with one of the bigger punchers. So that's what makes this fight interesting. Before we carry on with the preview on this, let's just talk very, very briefly about the undercard. Josh Padley, who has been a bit of a revelation. I've spoke before about fighters up and down the UK where they're on these small hall shows. You don't really... How do I explain it? They're working a full-time job to kind of supplement their income and so they can chase their boxing dream. But it means then that they're fighting, with maybe a full week, not like a full week of training. They've obviously trained before, but a full dedicated week of training. It's not ideal. They're taking fights on short notice. I mean, you look at Josh Padley's record here, and it's just all small hall shows, everything, until he finally got his opportunity against Mark Chamberlain last year. That was on the AJ Dubois show. I think that was one of the first cards that opened the fight, and he was a revelation. He looked really, really good in the fight. He obviously fought Shakur Stevenson. He took that fight on, 5 days' notice? And credit to him, I mean, he gave a very good account of himself. I mean, you could argue he maybe won a round, which I know some people are going to say, he only won a round. Well, he took the fight on literally no notice. He'd never campaigned above British level. And yeah, he got beaten and he got stopped by Shakur Stevenson. But you got to remember, he was stopped on body shots. Chances are the training that he was doing, because he always seems to keep himself in shape, fair play to him, but the training that he was doing, he probably wasn't envisioning that week when he woke up on that Monday morning getting punched in the body consistently by a world-class fighter. So you got to factor that in. And since then, he came back with a win in Sheffield a couple of months ago, and he's in there against Reece Bellotti. Reece Bellotti is another one. Reece Bellotti was Well, he was never really one of the kind of small hall, blue collar fighters, so to speak, right? He was with Matchroom pretty much from the get-go. I think he was on Team GB at one stage, but he'd always been Matchroom associated. I remember seeing his fight against Dai Davis all those years ago in the York Hall, and he was doing very well until he ran into Ryan Doyle. That was in the York Hall as well back in 2018. I remember that. It was on one of the Next Gen shows. I think Lawrence Okoli fought on that card and Isaac Chamberlain did as well. Not each other, but they fought respectively, I think. And after that, his career kind of went into decline. He lost in Italy, a split decision. He lost to Jordan Gill. And, Jordan Gill, he's all right. Lost to Ray Ford. I remember that was on Fight Camp. And Ray Ford's a tremendous fighter, so there's no real shame in that. But then he started to pull some wins together. Started to get some wins together, started to get on a good run of form, fought Ryan Gardner back in July. That was a cracking fight, but he got stopped in the 12th round. Now he's in there against Josh Padley. He already has 6 defeats. He's 34 years old. He can still punch, but this is a guy who primarily was at featherweight, and I suspect this fight is going to be up at 135 pounds. So I can say Josh Padley is probably going to do the job on that one. As for the rest of the card, I'm looking at it and I'm just kind of like, it's all right. It's mainly those 2 fights that we're interested in. Dave Allen, Arslanbek Makhmudov. Dave Allen has, in the past, and I think he said this himself in the past, he's always been a good sparring partner, because you listen to Dave Allen talk, you hear about all the fighting camps he's been in with fighters like Usyk, Joshua, Fury, Chisora, Dubois. Always been in training camps, always been sparring, and has had that sparring partner's mentality when he's been in the ring. He's been unwilling, I think, at times to let his hands go. And I think it definitely cost him in that Lenroy Thomas fight, because that fight, I think, was there for him to win. But there's been other fights as well where you've just waited just to see something, and it just hasn't quite happened. Fraser Clark was a good example a couple of years ago. It wasn't that long ago, actually. But there was not really any of that urgency there. Same with David Price, and that was David Price who was next fight. He got blasted out by Chisora and retired. There's always been that little bit of lack of urgency there, and I think with Dave Allen, I don't know what it is. Is it him maybe trying to test the water early on to see kind of what's there, and then maybe just kind of, how would you describe it, just kind of falling into kind of a just that pace and just not able to change? Maybe, because I remember against Lucas Brown for the first couple of rounds, and that only went 3 rounds. Lucas Brown was actually doing all right in those first couple of rounds, and that was another example of Dave Allen just starting slow, found his way. He's always been a good body puncher. He has ability, Dave Allen, he absolutely does. It's just never fully been realised. He is training with Jamie Moore, who is one of the top trainers in the UK. That's why I was shocked when Jack Cattrall left him, because I think that he is a phenomenally good trainer. He's a very good trainer, is Jamie Moore. So he'll be looking at Arslanbek Makhmudov and thinking, right, how can we go and exploit the weaknesses in this man's game? Because there are many. I think for Dave Allen, he's just going to have to go and do what he does best, which is go and attack the body. Whenever he attacked the body against Johnny Fisher in both fights, he had success. I suspect, and I've long since suspected this about Allen in that first Johnny Fisher fight, because I felt Dave Allen won that fight, and I thought Johnny Fisher was there for the taking at times to the head in that first fight. And there was moments after Dave Allen put Johnny Fisher down where it almost seemed like he knew himself, throw a right hand, you're going to hit him in the head, you're going to land it. But he went to the body instead, and I suspect that was because he realised he was significantly better than Johnny Fisher, and maybe because I think they're mates, he didn't want to go for the jugular like that. And obviously he ended up getting robbed. That was a robbery, I don't care what anyone says. He won that fight. Second time around, there was no such issues with letting the big shots go. Dave Allen's going to want to be attacking that body from very early on, really trying to leave an imprint, but he's going to have to be careful, because Arslanbek Makhmudov's a big puncher. He'll throw those straight shots. Dave Allen's going to want to have head movement, decent head movement. I don't think tucking up is really going to help you, because he's done that in the past, again, against guys like David Price, Makhmudov, would you say they're a similar kind of level? Because David Price was always value for money, don't get me wrong. I love Pricey. Great value for money. He was so much fun to watch. But he was very limited. He had a weak chin, he had a poor gas tank. But he was able to beat Dave Allen just on the jab, right? And that was a Dave Allen who was actually in very good shape. He was 241 in that fight. And he'd only fought a couple of months prior. He'd actually been consistent, and that was 6 years ago now. if Makhmudov can establish the jab on Dave Allen early on, he could be in for a problem. Having said that, Jamie Moore, I think, will have that problem scouted. Makhmudov is painfully slow. Like, this is a slow heavyweight. So Allen should be able, even if he is getting picked apart at long range, to be able to, at the very least, slip some of them jabs and get some work done up close, which is where he's going to need to be. He's going to need to be up close. He's going to need to be on Arslanbek Makhmudov like a bad smell. You're not going to outman him. You're not going to outstrength him. It's as simple as that. He's a big, strong, imposing, big puncher, right? That's what he is. So Dave Allen's going to have to just go in and just try and make it uncomfy for him. And we have seen it. Like, we've seen him unravel very quickly against Ajay Kabayel in that fight. And Kabayel, obviously, is a lot better than Dave Allen. He's much better to the body. He's much better coordinated. But you get what I mean. The blueprint is there. So I think if Allen can follow a similar blueprint to that, he should have success. Having said that, we've seen Dave Allen again. I mean, Arslanbek Makhmudov, where would you put him? Fringe world level? Wins over the likes of Carlos Takam. You beat Carlos Takam, you're decent, right? You're a decent fighter. If you beat him, you're not going to go and maybe conquer the division. You're not maybe going to pick up a world title, but you've shown something, right? Because Carlos Takam is good, right? Is Fraser Clark on that level? No, I don't think he is, but he was able to beat Dave Allen soundly, all right? And Dave Allen had low blows, Clark had low blows in that fight because, yeah, he was punching Dave Allen low. Apparently it was a perforated eardrum that caused Allen to retire. But is Makhmudov better than him? Yeah, I would say he probably is. Is he better than David Price? Yeah, probably. Could he replicate what especially David Price did? I think he can. I absolutely think he can. Can he do it as well and as consistent as David Price? Well, that's another question. So this, to me, is an interesting fight. I'm really been going back and forth on who I think will win this fight. We will be doing a live watch-along. Actually, I meant to say that we'll be doing a live watch-along as well for this fight. But I've been going back and forth a lot as to who I think will win this fight. I got to give a pick on it. I think either way, we're seeing a stoppage win. I don't think we're going, this fight is a scheduled 12-rounder. I don't think we're going to see 12 rounds. I really don't. I think that we are going to see a stoppage. I don't know whether it's going to be a corner retirement, a clean knockout, a TKO, etc. But I think we are going to see someone stopped in here. And me personally, I think, and I've gone back and forth in my head several times when I've really assessed this fight and I've thought about it. Honest to God, I think we are actually going to see Dave Allen stopping Arslanbek Makhmudov. Probably on body shots. Don't underestimate the headshots as well. Dave Allen's a good puncher, he's a decent puncher. But I think he'll get to Makhmudov's body. And I just think Makhmudov is just too slow. He's just... He won't be able to do what the likes of David Price could do. I don't think he will. I really don't think he will. So I'm going with Dave Allen to win this fight. It won't be early. I'd be very surprised if it's inside 5 rounds like it was with Johnny Fisher. I think we're going rounds, but I think kind of between rounds, probably 8 to 11, thereabouts. In around that mark, Dave Allen should be able to get a foothold, and the pressure that I think he will put on Makhmudov is going to accumulate. And that's what I think is going to happen. So my pick for this fight, Dave Allen to win this fight via stoppage. Now, I say that with no great degree of certainty because that's why I like this fight. It was a random fight to be announced because you're thinking for Dave Allen to come to win back off a win over Johnny Fisher. You should have some options there, and he did, and he picks this one, which is an interesting one. I say that with no great degree of certainty that I picked Dave Allen, but I just think he'll just edge this. He'll just edge this. And if he gets the win, God knows where the ball ends then. I do think that he has a British title fight in him. And what I mean by that is to win a British title, depending on who the champion is. We'll obviously find out at the end of this month. But my pick is Allen wins this fight. He beats Arslanbek Makhmudov. And yeah, we will be doing a live watch along this coming Saturday. Let me know in the comments section below who you think will win. You think actually, no, Makhmudov's got this, or do you think, like me, Allen probably has enough tools in his toolbox to be able to deal with this guy? Let me know. Hope you enjoyed it, people. Smash the like button on the way in or on the way out. Until next time, I'll leave it there.